think we can get started here. So this is our working session. We've got a couple of members who need to be out of here by 7, so forgive me if we're just going to roll through stuff. As a reminder, this is for conversation and discussion. We're not going to take any votes, but we can send things off for review at additional hearings in the future. So starting with the fire department and the height of buildings. We have the fire department here. If you guys want to talk to us a little bit about this maybe, or we can reach over to Mr. Thielen. I don't know how we want to start with this. Maybe I'll look at Andy.
Really, I'm coming into this pretty blind. All I've got for information is what Mike has shared with me from the last council meeting. So I guess I don't even know what the purpose is or what we're really striving for.
Okay.
I guess so.
Well,
I'm prepared to answer some questions, but
Yeah, the question came up at one of our last council meetings. I think it was the last one. The concern with having the 4-story apartment or the senior living, and if God forbid something happens there, ensuring that we are well equipped to respond. So I don't know if you just want to talk about how you train for things like that or how we are equipped. I know we've talked about it a little bit in the past when this was first contemplated, but we have a new council since then. So want to just enlighten us a little bit on?
I guess as far as direct training with something like that, we've never done a training or anything of that nature for a 3 or 4-story building yet. The current procedure that we would follow, we would hook up right to the standpipes, the sprinkler system, and we would basically pump water into the building to make sure we maintain pressure. Because the city's pressure, I think, would sustain that for a certain amount of time. Is that right, Ron? Or they just use that to increase the pressure with the pumps?
Right, well, obviously you want to hook onto a boost the pressure up.
Yep.
To get to the upper floor, that you need that.
So that's basically, the sprinkler systems are going to be the #1 line of attack for any type of fire or anything. I mean, that's pretty much #1. And then after that, it's just going to be going in the entrance that when we do our walkthrough and we learn where the hydrants are and where everything's at, for that building that's going up, we'll figure out what doors or what the best line of attack is at that point for any type of scenarios and go from there.
Is that the highest structure that's going to be in town?
That will be
Because
the highest.
the apartment building next door, but that's not as high, is it?
That's 3 stories solid, I think, without a basement or something like that, or.
And I guess if we're concerned about ladder trucks, I mean, that's mutual aid for us to afford I think we had a discussion prior to this building going up.
Right.
And, we don't have the facility for it or the funds to even think about it.
And both New London and Spicer have them.
And Melrose.
And Melrose.
St. Joe.
But I thought the concern was that because of the height of that building, the sprinkler system, the water pressure is not as high as it should be. So then that's why when you guys come, you kind of
Now,
extra pressure.
before they started construction, or as we're doing construction, I don't remember, maybe you'll remember, Ron, what Brad and I decided, but I'm pretty sure we told them we wanted a booster in that line
Yes.
for that reason.
Yeah, there's boosters in there.
Okay.
I'm almost positive.
Yep.
And
I am
that should help take care of the situation.
I mean, I guess we can verify that with Brad.
Yep.
You know, that.
Yeah, because I remember telling them specifically that it's going to be, by the time the fire starts, it's 20 minutes before we're up the stairs and fighting that fire. I mean, that's just, 2 minutes to call it in, 2 minutes to page us, and then 5 minutes for us to get to the hall, and, 3 minutes for us to get the truck, out the door, and then, another, in this case, probably 3 to 4 minutes before we're there, and then you hook up, and you get a minimum of 20 minutes before we have water on fire. So that's why I told I believe it was the engineer at the time, but we wanted the boosters for that reason.
So would you be using the tanker truck to hook up to a fire hydrant to increase the pressure,
Yes, we would use number 12, which is our tanker pumper.
which is not real good shape?
No.
Right. The pump is actually there's nothing wrong with the pump. It's a solid pump. It's just, at this point, the leaks have been repaired temporarily. Roger repaired those before he left. The tank still has a small hole in it, I think. but that's kind of slowed drastically. So, and we haven't, I mean, it's not like that truck's gonna come offline, because even if we started buying a new truck today, you're looking at 2 years, it's gotta be used. So, before the new one would come in. So it's not a matter of, do we repair it at this point, or do we keep it running? It has to stay running. So,
But we don't want to be looking back. If there's a chance just to entertain the thought of getting the next step up, say a different pumper truck in 2 years out, that gives us 2 years to think about it, or put in a hard order and work around it.
what are you referring to, or what?
A different pumper truck.
Yeah,
Then what?
Just repair what we have right now and wait till we can get something different, more reliable. Because what year is that truck? It's in the 80s, isn't it?
86.
Okay.
It's 2 years from when you order it till you get it.
Yeah, I know.
If we ordered it today, it's 2 years before we get the truck.
That's why
You
I,
have to keep this one
And you have to
fixed.
check it out. That's a year and a half, actually, is
Yeah.
what the turnaround time is. But it's gonna take us 6 months to spec it out and let them know what we want, or what we're cutting, or what we,
I think instead of entertaining the thought right now of a ladder truck, that might be the best route.
Well, yeah,
well,
it needs replacing.
Yeah.
you're talking about replacing Unit 12 with a ladder truck, is what you're.
Well, instead of replacing it with a ladder truck, just getting another tanker.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it's gonna take a while to get that in. So in the meantime, use what we have, because if we wait another 6 months, that's another 6 months we're gonna have to wait.
Correct.
So my guess just to think about is, let's try and work in that area. Like I mentioned before, those residents aren't gonna run out of that building like high school or college freshmen.
I need help.
No.
They will definitely need help if they can even walk.
And majority of that is going to be manpower going in, getting them out. Ladder truck is not gonna be it's not gonna be a very viable option.
Well, right, and that's what kind of concerns me too, is that's gonna be, probably 20, 25 minutes before a ladder truck could even make it here?
I would say about that if we mutual aid, and for us, it's still, same thing. It's gonna be 20 minutes before we have that
Yeah.
ladder moving.
So I would imagine though, these buildings have to be spec'd in such a way to keep that in mind.
I would think so.
Yeah, with the building materials, escape routes, things like that, they have to be built with that in
I
mind.
believe that one elevator and it's on one end of the building, is that correct?
You're not gonna wanna use that during a fire.
Yeah, it just depends on your scenario, but yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Two stairwells and the hallways are extra wide or something.
And that would be getting the elderly down those flights of stairs. That's gonna take something, but, hopefully we never get to that point.
Correct.
Do you think we could probably get Jeff Hall involved in this? I know he's big in the law enforcement and fire. And with the new round of money coming in, it wouldn't hurt for us to get our name on the list.
Yeah, so Tarek and I met with Senator Smith's staff last week just to talk about some infrastructure money ideas. I don't know that, any money that's coming in is gonna be on a federal level. Fishbach ignored us, was my understanding, as did.
So far, yes.
So far. So Michelle, if you're listening, we want some money.
She just sent me a text today.
Did she?
She was just at the Queen Bee's a week ago.
Who was?
Fishbowl.
She didn't bother stopping to say hi.
I know.
Are we looking for money for the fire truck? Is that what we're,
Yeah, I think budgeting a fire truck, it's 2 years once we order it. It's not in next year's budget, and I know we've got to talk about it for 2023's budget or 2024.
The thing is, when we order it, we don't have to have all the money for that
No.
Right.
at that point, because we will have 2 years of money going into the.
You have to put a percentage down those.
About 50% we should have budgeted.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind, I know this isn't budget and finance, but the next truck is already in docket to be replaced. It's 20 years old last year, 2021, this year. So, that's technically 5 years, and that's the truck we use for every call.
That's the rest.
It never not goes, unless it's a grass fire that gets put out before we get that truck out the hall. But that's the only exception, that truck doesn't roll. That's our rescue truck, so I know this isn't budget finance, but that's something else that's going to be coming up as well, so. But that's not a $300,000 truck, that's only a $200,000 truck.
Well, as far as I'm aware, the largest or longest ladder truck, tallest is what, like 13 stories, I think, in the US? And, I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of buildings that are taller than that. So I think what you're saying is that you know, the ladder truck isn't necessarily what you would use as a viable rescue scenario anyway. You know, you're gonna go in and get them out. So I think we need to look at what, if, you know, it is another tanker or whatever in the future, then that's, because I don't think that, I mean, if you're going to have taller buildings, you can't base what you're going to buy around that, because they don't make them 40 or 50 stories tall, you know, that's not.
So I think ultimate question is, between the two of you, if we have a fire with the equipment we have today, can we handle it?
Yeah, with our resources,
Okay,
absolutely.
between what we have, mutual aid, we've got it covered.
And the higher pressure sprinklers and,
Okay,
I just have one,
yeah,
with, all the buildings that are out there all the way up to 30 floors or whatever, anything newer has definitely got sprinklers. And over the last 10 years, there must be fires in these buildings. Have any turned into a terrible disaster? Has the sprinklers taken care of the problem?
I guess I don't know
That'd be something
the
to,
history around, I don't
Well,
know
there was
that
that one in
answer.
Minneapolis a couple of
But
years ago.
I do know that the plaza is sprinklered, and we had an arson there several years back where a lady had brought her stroller down and put some books in there and lit a fire, right? She was basically sabotaging, and the fire was out before we got there. We had to look to find out where this was.
as
And-
long as the sprinklers work, there should
Yeah.
never really be a problem.
Right, yeah, I mean, your sprinklers are pretty much going to work, and they're not a guarantee that you're not gonna have something catastrophic. I mean, if you have some type of explosion or something that, you know, makes a mess in a building, sprinklers are only gonna do so much. And as far as a ladder truck, I would love for us to have a ladder truck. We would use a ladder truck on just about every fire, any structure fire, we would use it, the nozzle on it, any type of, not extrication, any type of ventilation that we would do, we would use the ladder truck setup and do that. It's just safer and easier, you know, but,
So you're talking like a water cannon?
yeah, it'd be like a water cannon or whatever.
If you're gonna get a ladder truck, might as
nozzle.
well get one of them.
Well, it's basically the same thing, same
Yeah.
price. But, you know, it's not that, you know, we need one. It would be nice to have. It's just a safer tool, better tool, but you're also talking, you know, $500,000 for a used truck, or $1 million for a brand new truck, you know? We can buy 3 trucks for that. We're not gonna spend that kind of money, at least in my opinion, at this time.
Well, what we were talking about the other day, Jennifer, was, when we're talking about heights and building heights, and Ron, you were there, where we said 60 feet or 65 feet, but I think we're referring to silos and stuff, and not necessarily residential structures. I mean, is that kind of something that will relate to this too? Because, you know, if we're gonna go higher on that,
Well, right now, the highest structure that we can have without a variance is in our industrial park, which is 45 feet. They got a variance for that structure.
AMPI?
AMPI has gotten a variance for all their silos.
Right.
There was a tower put up in industrial park that exceeded the 45 feet. That also had a variance. So in your packet, it did show all the minutes from those meetings when Fortitude was coming to actually before they purchased the property, to get it rezoned. The height was not a problem during the rezoning and also during the variance.
Yeah.
The height was not a problem. If AMPI goes up in smoke or Fortitude goes up in smoke, according to Andy in the minutes, we're calling it mutual aid. It's an automatic.
Right.
Right now, they are proposing in the new ordinance that's going to policies and procedures, the silos, we would grant up to 90 feet, because that's what AMPI is thinking that the new silos will be without a variance. So if that's too tall, you can put a new different number in there. But the other 45 feet would still stand for all other structures. Residential, the height on dwellings is 35 feet. On accessory buildings, 16 feet. But according to some of the minutes I read, I think, if Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, even on a 2-story house that's up in flames, you might need a ladder truck. You'd call in mutual aid.
Yes,
So even if it's.
not always, but.
On some.
Yeah.
And I think that's in the minutes also. So if you have a house on fire, they're gonna call in mutual aid with a ladder truck.
So within the last 5 years, we've had 2 pretty substantial buildings go up with the apartments in all Fortitude. And if we can show that, that the fire department and the city's prepared for this, there's a potential that more may come. And along with that comes with businesses and everything else that goes along with it. It's just, I would guess it's just a growing pain if we want to grow.
Well, and I guess I'll have a comment with growth. There is some interest in another apartment or 2 being made. At that point, do we need more water reservoir around?
Depends on where it's.
At this time, until our actual usage goes up, probably not.
I mean, another 4-story apartment would make a,
The water usage from residential is actually very minor.
okay. I mean, the day will come where this is gonna probably happen.
Let's hope so.
Well,
And I think,
yeah.
the fact that we may need to be looking at booster pumps or whatever we might need to do for a new apartment building, or if we do need to look at adding trucks, things of that nature, I mean, that's something that whoever's sitting on the council at that time will need to consider when the developer inevitably comes and asks for a TIF district or a tax abatement. And keeping in mind that having to improve all of the infrastructure that goes there also costs some money. So if we need to get a new ladder truck or a new pumper truck to support your new apartment building, what's it gonna do to the city's tax base if we also give you a full tax abatement?
Yeah, that's right.
Could we think about having the fire department come up with some ideas, equipment, figures, something that we can toss around, because you guys are the ones that are out there fighting the fight. There's no sense any of us trying to figure out what you're gonna need. You guys are the ones that are gonna need it.
Well, and Andy, my understanding is that you're working on like a capital improvement schedule, and we're gonna be bringing that to budget and finance at some point, so we can get a better lead on exactly where we need to be putting money. So,
Well,
Yeah, right, thanks.
yeah,
if you're actually thinking of a ladder truck, you gotta think of a new fire hall first. 'Cause
Yeah, and no fit,
Right,
yeah, no,
will
that's
not
what,
fit into that.
yeah.
well, I have some ideas to make it work.
For now, I'll say we should call Jeff Howell.
I've got a sledgehammer, we'll just make a little addition on the side.
Yeah, but not higher than 35 feet. Right?
45.
It's in residential.
We'll move it.
We'll give it a variance.
Yeah, we'll give it a variance.
She hates that word.
I saw the cringe. All right, anything else on the fire department? Otherwise, I think we're ready to move on. Okay. All right, zoning districts. This came up as my suggestion, so I'll talk about it. Jennifer handed out some documents before you sat down to update. These are not meant to be exactly what I would propose we pass, but just to give some thoughts and ideas as to where my head is at for replacing this intent language in our zoning ordinances. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you, guys have a good night.
Look forward to working with you.
It is a public meeting if you want to stick around.
It's gonna be really exciting.
Somebody said it was gonna be boring.
I didn't say she was wrong.
Have a good night. I think I have the pictures already. You guys have a good night.
The biggest one that brought this to my attention is the C1 commercial zoning district. It's just putting in some language here saying, what are we going to do? And I think this sort of lays into the downtown development that we'll be talking about next. But looking at having zoning language that reflects how we want these places to actually be developed and used.
Yeah, I like where you're going with this.
I guess I like the idea, because at this point, we don't know what the downtown redevelopment will end up being.
Right.
And a lot of towns and is apartment type to second and third level and maybe bottom level retail. Housing definitely will probably occur in the downtown district.
Yeah, I don't think we can seriously talk about any type of downtown revitalization without including housing. We have to think of that.
As a person that lives downtown, I like it. And I think a lot of people my age or, you know, the younger, it's, especially if we'd have more amenities downtown. But,
You know, that of course is a chicken and egg problem.
right,
Yeah.
You know, you don't have more people living because there aren't amenities, but there's also no place to live.
there's no place, I mean, everything's full downtown. Right.
Because there's no amenities. So it's, you know, if we can put in language that allows for developers to come in and put
Well, and I
up.
like the pedestrian friendly thing, because
Yeah.
I walk around downtown all the time, well, you do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
So, and I'm not set on this language. This was just to get the juices flowing of what I had in my head.
yeah, I like.
Well, you don't put any kind of residential in the C1 Central Business District, I noticed. Oh, I see that.
Oh, they did.
Yep.
Yep, you did. Yeah, I like it, at least the concept of it.
So is this something where we want to sort of take this and come back at our next, well, not court, you wanted to get it done tonight so you can pass the zoning or thought?
No, we're not close to that.
Okay.
My thought would be is if there was a consensus on what we discussed tonight, changing what existed to whatever your vision or intent is, whatever your idea is, I would put that in to our last draft of it. And that last draft of it is going to policies and procedures next Wednesday.
Okay.
For hopefully some feedback. If they agree to push it on, it will go to planning on the 20th of December for their first time to see it. If policies and procedures don't act on it, or they don't think they want to push it to planning, it would still go, otherwise we would cancel planning and they wouldn't see it until January. But then planning would have to look at it, and depending upon how many meetings they want to look at it first, then they need to set the public hearing. Or if the council was to set the public hearing and they want to hear it, the council can hear it. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow, but it has been ongoing for, well, Preston's 15, so close to 15 years, and I would really, really, really like to get this done.
Once we get it through policies next week, I will, maybe you, me, Tarek, can call Bill, folks, get him on the phone and see if he wants to handle it through planning, or if we want to do a joint meeting.
Yeah, and we can do a joint meeting with planning, that's not a problem. But one of the entities has to set the public hearing and hear it. And if we want, the joint meeting could be both planning and representatives from the council, we could set it as a special council. The public hearing could be joint, as well as when the determination is made.
Yeah.
But, we still have to publish, and, more than likely, it wouldn't be approved until February if we can go as quickly as we want. But,
Mr. Jacobson would prefer that you not publish a summary, that you just publish the whole thing.
yeah, with paper. I have a question on the C1 idea.
Yes.
So you say, or retail and multifamily. So, let's just use the cabinet shop that was a question to late. That is a single family, it's not a multifamily. So are we encouraging that? Because right now, any residential downtown requires a conditional use. So if we put residential as the idea, are you still gonna require a conditional use?
And not all the residentials downtown are multi.
No, because
Quite a
that,
few only have one apartment in
well,
it.
the old bakery, for instance, where the
Yeah.
cabinet shop is
Yeah.
planned, is a single family dwelling.
Right.
My only fear with using single family is now we're talking houses,
Yep.
which is not, it's not the intent, so I don't know.
I don't think single.
I think it would still have to be a conditionally,
Well, no matter, any type of housing, whether you are in Jean's building, whether you develop another plaza, whether you turn the former funeral home into apartments, it's gonna require conditional use. And the reason is parking. Pure and simple, parking needs to be addressed. Where are the tenants going to park? Where are they going to put their stuff? Things of that nature. Garbage, all of that.
we should build a parking ramp.
What?
We should build a parking ramp. No.
That has been discussed.
That has been discussed.
boy.
I think we could put in,
I just want to make sure that we're all thinking of it the same. I mean, Jean's building is multifamily. The
Yeah.
plaza is multifamily. The people that live above businesses though, some have, I think the former Wishing Well or Corner Drug, for example, that had one apartment. Wishing Well, I think maybe had two.
Yeah,
Twice as nice as the
yeah,
also.
Basic has one.
So I would consider them, maybe not multifamily, but either maybe we use the word differently of, apartments above businesses, or, are we gonna allow them on the main floor? Do we want them on the main floor? Do we only want them above? Because potentially, if we allow them out of conditional use, all the storefronts could end up being homes too.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, and as of right now, there has to be something else on the main floor. It can't be apartments on the main. I mean, not the whole thing.
Which I'm not opposed to apartments on the main floor, because most mixed-use developments, which is what we're looking at, have them. And it works out well, but there has to be some, they can't all be. And that's where it runs into the issue of like, how do you set the limit on that?
And maybe that's a good term. We have mixed use, Jeans is a mixed use.
Yep.
So maybe you want to
Yeah.
use the word mixed use in your intent or your idea, and maybe in the ordinance then for C1, if that really is what you would like to see in the future is a more of a mixed use, maybe we have to outline that the housing area is either
A certain
above,
percent.
behind,
And not more than 25% on the main floor or something like that.
something, but I
Something,
mean,
yeah.
and maybe that's not it. Maybe you want all the storefronts to be homes. I don't know.
I don't think we'd have to do that as a conditional use. I'm thinking back to what Bill was talking about during the cabinet shop meeting and how we could say, cabinet shop subject to parking or access rights. And I thought he said we could limit it for that. Maybe I'm misremembering.
Well, that was a way of, you could have drafted that ordinance, but that's not how you approved it.
Right.
So right now, potentially, if they move in there, they really should get a conditional use to live there.
Yes. What we could, if we're revising it, if we're gonna make this mixed use, we could move, say, multifamily housing into just an approved use without a condition, but say multifamily housing provided that the first floor is commercial and that there's at least one parking spot for every resident somewhere in the structure or whatever it is.
Or every apartment.
Yeah,
Good?
Yeah.
and that could be in in the language of the acceptable use.
Yep.
Is that,
It would be kind of a headache to get conditional use permits all the time.
It is, but it's a bigger headache when you fill your council chambers with people yelling at you guys about parking, which has happened 3 or 4 times.
No kidding. Not more than once.
It's a delight.
they can,
So we have to pick our battles. So if that is something that the policies and procedures desires, maybe that's some language you want to talk about on Wednesday.
well,
Yeah, I'm not against that. I would, the simpler the better. It just needs to be clear, because right now, if Jean wants to put another apartment downstairs, she needs to get a conditional use.
well, it seems like everybody's open to this idea, and it sounds like it's gonna be Paul and I figuring out exactly what this is gonna look like. for
What the
this
wording's gonna
plan.
be.
If anybody wants to send Jennifer, myself, language as you look through this, I'm happy to bring it to policies and we'll chat about it.
And what I'll do is I'll submit these to Bill, just so he has an idea that what you're looking at, and maybe not do a lot of action on it, but maybe just kind of breeze through it, let it sink in. If he is, totally against something that would be very hard to enforce, or, totally in favor of something, maybe after policies, procedures, before it goes to planning, we can just discuss it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping we don't do a planning meeting on the 20th.
I was
Huh?
thinking we could probably kick that one out to the evening of the 24th.
Yeah.
If we don't have it on the 20th, which I'm not against canceling, then I would send it out anyways for the planning board to review.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And that they would need to come ready with
Comments.
comments, so that we don't just spin our wheels. Because I believe there'll be people that won't read it, there'll be people that will read it, there'll be people that want to abolish the entire chapter, and there'll be people that want 100 more pages added. So it's gonna be we probably can't do it in one meeting.
Thanks for the warning.
That's just the dynamics of the
I'm not
people.
planning.
But it's no different than, you guys either. I mean, there's people that are more attached to planning and zoning than others. That's just the way it is.
It is, it's the way it is.
All
Well,
right, so everyone's good. If you have ideas on that, send them to Jennifer or myself, and we'll get them to planning.
Okay.
Okay.
sounds like a plan, and I'll hear it at planning.
All right. Downtown redevelopment. Well, with my attention for canceling policies and procedures meetings, it might be allowed for against the planning.
There you go, there you go.
So I put this on because we were talking amongst staff one day about downtown redevelopment, and we're talking about the intent of the C1 district coming. And then I looked at Tarek and Ron and Belinda, we're like, where did we end up with that? And I found the minutes that said, we're gonna wait till a new city administrator is hired.
So,
And Tarek said, I think we should put that on the next working session.
Yeah, so Tarek, what's the plan?
Yeah.
well, I went through all the minutes, and, some of the minutes were pretty rough to read. And I can tell who made those comments without saying names. But yeah, to me, it seems like this started around 2017.
Well, even before that, we had what
Even
was
before
called
that.
the Ad hoc Enhancement Committee. That was like in 14, and they kind of like stirred the pot a little bit, and then that kind of went away. And Ron's laughing because he's seen this roller coaster. And then that kind of, that whole committee was done, and then it got, put on a couple working sessions. It got put on their 2015 goal setting. They went to a retreat off-site, and they spent a day setting goals.
I saw that too.
And this was one of the goals. Well, then, every time we had a working session, we had a goal setting, and we try to check off the goals that you guys came up with, or they came up with at that time. And it never, ever, ever, ever got off the list.
Yes.
And then it kind of just was put to bed. We don't have any money. The whole corner drug business, buy it, sell it, demolish it, turn it into a parking ramp, whatever happened. And then at the latest, Mr. Flanders came with some options with some developers, but it still came down to money.
And
Right.
it came down to asking the city to buy some buildings too.
And we told them no, because we weren't going to use taxpayer money to buy buildings.
Yeah.
And there was discussion about putting
I think
businesses
everybody
out
likes it.
by demolishing those businesses. You know, where will those people go that are living there, where will those businesses go? We still have AMPI to think about, we don't know what their plan is.
That's what I was gonna say, it's very hard to come up with a concept. And unless a developer comes in that wants to spend some money, we're probably looking at Painesville, the way Painesville is. And I think you said a mountain right there where, I guess it's no big secret, down the road, AMPI wants to expand. And at that point, we'll have to rezone, for them to do that. But I think we'd be foolish, if that's what they want to do, to not let it happen. Because we probably don't need the area we have now as downtown residential.
Yeah.
It would probably do us a favor if they took 4 or 5 buildings.
So, I know the developer, I can't think of her name, I've read it in here 100 times, so it's blanking me now.
Jenna King?
Yes.
Jenna King also she was hired by the city. She was a consultant through Bolton and Mink.
Right.
And Jana went out and interviewed people and business owners and did this kind of an analysis presentation put together. You'll find it in that big packet that I also sent. Some of the things that she said were not real kind, to be frank. But some of them were truthful, but we just don't want to hear them. But she did do that. Some of the things she put in there, we already knew.
Right.
It is what it is. So we spent money on that. We never did the second phase. There was a 2-phase approach. Also, it cost money. The second phase costed more money than the first phase. So they kind of wanted the second phase broken down even more. And
5 more phases.
And that went nowhere.
In some phases.
Well, we kind of thought at the end of the day, it didn't seem to be getting a whole lot of bang for our buck.
Right.
And you can do a report that thick and all the study and everything else. But like I said earlier, unless somebody's got a huge back pocket and wants to invest, this ain't gonna get it done.
Well, EDAP didn't see the urgency at the time either.
And I know myself and one other member of the council were not keen on moving forward with Ms. King, in part because of some of the comments she made regarding the rehab houses in town and the ruckus that stirred up. And then the added cost of doing basically just another repeat of step 1, as I understood it. You know, phase 2 was just sort of step 1, but with more groups. We were just continuing to spin the wheels and not actually take any action.
I think if there is really interest, then, or certain groups are interested in seeing it develop, then finding a developer that's interested, that should kickstart it. But it shouldn't come from us by way of pushing towards us acquiring buildings, when that's kind of a developer's thing to do. I mean, we can facilitate, we can assist in whichever way we can to make things smoother and easier, but unless you get a developer excited, I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I don't disagree. The one thing I got from our meeting with Senator Smith's staffers last week is we should be paying more attention to, and I think you already said you had your eye on them, but like the building facade grants to clean up buildings like Corner Drug and things like that, where it's a very big building that's had a very unfortunate history. And being able to get some grant money in there to rehab the faces of some of these things would make a huge difference in our downtown.
Yeah.
All the facade grants that I've seen require,
Matching funds.
more interested building owners than some seem, if it's a building that you haven't opened in 2 years, what are you gonna do about, are you gonna wanna put any money into it to make it look better? I don't know. So that's what, for me, what the struggle is with some of them downtown that are warehouses at this point. They aren't gonna wanna do anything with it because they don't do anything with it now. So I don't know. But I think there are some business owners that would be interested.
Well, we did that at one time.
Yeah.
And some of them did, that's where all those new awnings came up that are now worn out, because it was so long ago. And they got new windows and they got new doors on their buildings and EDAP took care of all that and,
We had a small cities grant, but the facade, we did a facade policy, but we were not one of those cities at that time that said, okay, we want our downtown to look like country western, and everything has to look very westerny, or we're gonna be the downtown that wants to look like,
the Alps or something.
you know, whatever. We were not at that point, the council voted there was not gonna be how do I say
A
this?
theme.
A theme, there you go, thank you. And it was just to improve what was there. So when you look at a facade policy, sometimes it's like, okay, all the buildings have to be brick, or a certain percent of it, and all the buildings have to be orange or purple. They just were not into that. They did the awnings and the doors and some of the windows. But to go back just a little bit further, and Jean can attest to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it even started before the ad hoc enhancement. Minnesota Design Team has been here twice. And I was a part of one of them. That was also, we had the Initiative Foundation, and that's a whole nother umbrella of all of this to see what we can do to our downtown. And now it's 23, 25 years later, and it's still the same downtown. It's service oriented. It's not going to be.
Yeah, it'll never be retail again. We can't push for retail.
And the bottom line, you're 9 out of 10 of the service-oriented business are pretty nice buildings and well cared for. Your insurance offices, your eye office, dentist, pretty well cared for buildings. And I guess that's what it is. Service is huge.
Yeah.
The times have changed.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
This is what it is.
Well, a long time ago,
Everybody needs insurance and dentist and eye doctor. And
a long time ago, when people, go ahead, Neil, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Okay, no,
I'm rambling.
when the train would have passengers here, people would, off-board, go stay at the plaza, do their business, go to a bar, whatever, move on to the next thing. The transportation has really defined the town, as we know what happened with Highway 23 going around it. It just basically took all the traffic, moved it out, and the options of people stopping here now are very slim.
You know what would increase that? An electric car charging station.
That's in the works.
I know. I'm just nudging you along.
That's probably gonna
Chuck's
happen.
part of that
There's
one.
infrastructure
That's probably
building for
gonna
the
happen.
Charging stations.
What's that?
Electric charging stations.
Yeah, hopefully that
We're waiting for the grants.
funding program comes out again through the MPCA.
Yeah,
Like next week?
Hopefully.
You have one in Litchfield.
Yeah.
Does it get much use? I mean, there's only a handful of electric vehicles out there, basically.
Yeah, I
But
didn't
it's
see
going to
it
be
used,
more.
I didn't see it used a ton yet, but I know there's been some other power companies that are getting into putting them into
Well-
communities as well.
This is what's coming, I guess, so.
yeah,
If you can get it installed for free.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, in 10 years is what it's gonna be, probably.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, I guess we need to all get behind that line of thought and accept.
So I'd like to see a
I
couple.
still like
of
cars
We need
that big
to, for
noise.
sure.
Does anyone,
Well, I'm a little dated, yeah.
He's still,
I had a lot more fun back then than today.
he's just missing old blue.
Well, that'd be nice.
does anyone know what the intentions of AMPI are?
No.
I don't think they.
They're buying up houses
They are,
along
Well-
River Street. They're, of course, they can't get, his name's,
well, not yet.
yeah.
But just looking up on their site here, they're 1.8 billion a year in sales.
Yeah.
It's like 7 different plants.
Yep.
So if they want to expand, they can really expand on this area if necessary. Because I believe they closed the plant down up by Rochester.
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
They closed one down somewhere.
Yeah, that's why we're seeing the Caledonia and milk haulers come up here.
The one thing they do tell us is that Painesville is one of their premier plants. And it's.
And that says a mouthful.
It does.
Well, they want to shut off River Street eventually.
Probably.
Oh, yeah, because they want to have a little
Wouldn't surprise
campus
me.
there. That's what they said.
Well, at the end of the day, you gotta look at what Litchfield did with First District. And look at First District and the tax base. And if we have a business that wants to do that, we'd be very foolish not to say, you bet, let's get her done.
There goes your building.
Hey, anything's for sale.
Yeah, anything for sale. That's why I said that.
For the right price.
Well, the real world's a little different than Yellowstone,
Yeah.
if anybody's watching that like I am.
You've had too much time on your hands, Neil.
Well, my other favorite show is Big Skies.
Oh, I don't like that one.
I guess I might have psychological problems.
Oh, I never thought I'd see the day that Neil's did Netflix.
Big skies.
Yellowstone's good.
Is it?
The language is a little strong, but
Yellowstone.
Yeah. It's a ranch.
what it is.
It's nothing you haven't yelled at Lee Schleifer before.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so
Watch Neil walk in with a cowboy hat.
what I'm hearing then is we don't have any interest in doing another developer. I think Jana or somebody else, not a developer, but another.
Consultant?
A consultant, yeah.
I mean, all the results that are available somewhere, you just read the thousands of those and be up to speed, I would think.
And at the end of the day, we know what needs to be done, it's finding the money to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's money, and I think it's, in any of the committees I've ever been on, it's kind of a fine line between, it's great to have a vision, but, there's all the freedom of people who own their businesses and what they want to do with them. So it's,
And having the money to do something like that.
it's a balance. So, yeah, money's the top one, obviously, but after
Right.
that, it's that way.
Refresh my memory, 10 years, 8 years ago, Steve Peterson and a couple of guys, was it a Presbyterian retirement home or, okay. And why did we say this wasn't a good idea, or were they wanting the city to help pay? And that's why it failed. Okay,
It all comes back to money.
yeah.
The other group that.
I mean, the idea
Yeah.
was good, and they kind of had a plan. I think it was even underground parking. But,
Thanks, so.
yeah,
The other group that I think did a little brainstorming on it was the people that went to the Blandon.
Yes, we did.
Thing, retreat, group, training, whatever. I think those people, those participants also maybe brainstormed on downtown stuff.
Yeah, there were 6 of us who were in a downtown group, and there was one project that we focused on, and then when that fell through, it was kind of, there were a few members in that group who didn't want to continue because it was just kind of at a frustrating point, I think, so. And then there was a think tank at one point after that with some of the people who are on the library vision board now, so.
yeah. I remember reading the design team reports and all that, and at the end of the day, we're not Izetta or Edina, and that's kind of what they wanted.
The river wall, that was
Yeah.
in the design team.
Well, there are a lot of.
Well, that sounds stupid.
One thing that they did talk about in the design team though, and in some of the downtown enhancement stuff, was the trail. And it sounds like the trail is picking up speed. So maybe that, if we get a couple of those things under our belts, that will also entice downtown
And
enhancement.
get the trail done through town.
Yeah.
And And that's a whole nother story.
But you're on that committee, so.
You're on that
we're
committee.
expecting
I am.
it to be done.
Yeah.
Don't let us down, Paul.
No, we appreciate what you guys are doing and just keep the pressure on.
But that board was on a hiatus for
5 years.
5 years, and now they're meeting
The trail.
diligently.
Yep.
Good. So,
Do you think we should have a discussion with the AMPI and see what their intentions are? Because if they would like to relocate some of their offices or whatever it is, some of their facilities up here, I think they would be a real good candidate to help with the downtown development.
Ron, do you want to talk about our success with getting information out of AMPI?
And they don't want to move out of New Ulm. They got a good deal there.
Or do you want to talk about their zoning? Their coverage?
well, AMPI is, they're at 90% of their
Land.
land coverage. Anything they put up now, whether it's a foot over of what they have, they're into a variance for green space. They're way over their lot area, lot coverage. So the only way they're gonna be able to expand is by purchasing more land and moving southerly.
Yay.
Alternatively, we could develop a new industrial park and they could,
That's
No,
never
that's
happened.
trickier than it seems because of the extremely high costs, hundreds of millions to do
I
it.
know. I just-
They're grandfathered in where they're at, I guess.
Well,
And until they're ready to do something, it probably isn't real important that we know their plan. But I guess if I was Stoneburner and the old Easterday building, I'd be going to see what their offer is. But that's me. So they have many options. It's no secret that the old oil guy,
Schneider?
yeah. If and when that place comes up for sale, they're gonna buy it overnight. Probably pay a lot more than you or I.
He won't sell it, his.
No, well, they're waiting
He'll, for
for,
him to, yeah, for the
they're
kids.
waiting for the flag to pull.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, when it does, they're gonna be the first one that they want that, and you can see why they would.
Who's got the old G&T building?
We don't, nobody local.
Nobody local?
And what is in, what is, it just, he's got.
it's just a storage.
It's just storage.
yeah,
No,
Did we
that's-
make first in there,
Ordinance
Ron?
on that,
I
but
thought
it's-
that,
They're already there.
did
so you
pipes
can't
go
go
in that
out.
building? I thought I had heard
We
that,
just need to.
that it was really water damaged right by now.
You know, I haven't been in there in years.
I thought that there was something
For
with
certain. I've
pipes,
heard that, but I don't.
pipes had broken or something, and that was the last time anyone had tried to reach the owner, as far as I know. But I don't know if that was the case.
It's a building that down the road will probably implode someday.
It'd be a good parking lot.
A couple of years ago, you put a new overhead door in it,
Yeah.
so
I
you can
know,
bring bigger things in.
yeah, there's at least one business owner down there who wouldn't mind expanding into that building, but they can't get a reasonable price, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we brought this on the agenda so we can give Tarek some instruction on what we want to do with downtown. And what I'm hearing is
Nothing.
keep talking to AMPI and keep doing what you're doing as far as making sure Chuck applies for the grants for the electric car chargers.
I guess it would be good to talk to MPI,
Yeah,
kind of let them know that we're willing to work with them, and if they want to share their plan, that would be nice, but I don't think it's a big secret that the day will come where they're going to expand.
Yeah, but I don't wanna, if we get better, or if we get options
When
for
they-
that
Oh, they do
space.
something.
I don't wanna say, no, AMPI wants it at some point, and then they haul off,
Right,
nobody wants
right.
it, whatever anyway.
Somebody
You know?
beats them to the punch, I guess that's, yeah, no,
frankly, I'm not willing to just sit on our hands and wait for AMPI to act. If we come up with a good idea, we need to do
Well,
it.
exactly.
And if
As soon as you lose, that's, yeah.
I think
right.
the local person who has an idea for that whole block of mixed use, you know, I would like to see that actually, but I just, again, where's the money? So
That remind them again.
that person does have money, but is that person gonna use their money in order to do it?
No, they put it where their mouth is.
Well, they have 1.8 billion a year in sales, so
Wouldn't that be delightful?
they know what money is.
Hey, that's the number for the bridge we need.
Yeah. All right. Then with that, unless there's anything else, Chuck, thanks for joining us. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Should have messaged you and said, don't.
Yeah. Okay, well then we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.